Everybody loves a perfect theme song, a melody that stays inside your heart. You might have a nice show and others may think so, but if you want a great connection right from the start, then you gotta have a perfect theme song, so everyone can sing along from home. And while they are singing, the ratings you'll bring in, all because the melody is stuck in their head. You can make the bridge sound Jewish, that would be fine, long as it's familiar but newish. Everyone's falling in line, all because you got a perfect theme song, accompanying the audience for years. And when the show is over, it won't be the end, because the perfect theme song's a life-lasting friend. And speaking of friends, here's your host and MC, 'cause Mondays with Marcus is now a live stream. Whoa, 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 yeah. Hello, hello, and welcome, everybody. Welcome to Mondays with Marcus. I am your host, Marcus Goldhaber. It's nice to see you. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I certainly did. We had some great, officially spring weather, which was nice outside. Got to go outside a bit, and it's amazing the power of the sun and the impact that it has on your soul. So, give me some shout outs today. I'd love to let know who's tuning in here. So please make sure and leave some comments in the comment box so I can acknowledge you. We're going to add a new little moment here to the show that I want to jump right into as I think it's relevant as we dive forward into this transition, as we start to emerge wherever we are able to and wherever we're comfortable doing so. And so I'd like to highlight a moment of gratitude as we've all been through so much, and many of us are still going through a lot. And so I'd like to introduce a moment of gratitude here. And I'm going to share with you something that I'm grateful for. And I would love to know throughout the show what are you grateful for? And I'll keep reminding folks and whatnot to just put this in the comment box and put a little note in, and we'll share it with everyone else. And hopefully that'll have a nice positive ripple effect on folks right now as we again go forward through this unprecedented transition time. But there is a lot to report right now. Of course, you know we've been following a very exciting news story not on this planet. Folks, but without going any further, I'd like to let you know what's new on Mars. Okay, well, this won't take very long actually at all because there aren't any major updates. But I've been following this story, and as the disclaimer says, I am not a journalist. But I think about the incredible implications of what it will mean that we are making such progress on another planet for the first time in my lifetime, and presumably anyone's lifetime who is on this planet with us, planet Earth, that is. So, without further ado, what do we have so far? We have a robot and a helicopter on planet Mars being remotely controlled by NASA here and on planet Earth. The helicopter has traveled distances further than anticipated. It's had 5 flights so far and taking pictures of the topography and grabbing samples and whatnot and reporting back. And it's perseverance and ingenuity. The robot is on the ground as well, keeping the helicopter company because it's kind of what you do. It's sort of like, professional courtesy, I suppose. Anyway, the exciting news to report, of course, is that we've had sound recordings from Mars. We've had new flight patterns I mentioned before that were not anticipated. We've created oxygen, breathable air on Mars for only about, I think, a few minutes. I think it was 8 minutes. But still, that's pretty fantastic, and it gets me pretty excited. And the latest bit of news is that there's going to be a 6th flight, again, unplanned. And now they don't really know what this helicopter is going to find. It's just plotted out a bit of land that is fairly safe to fly over, and it's going to kind of go, dare I say, where no helicopter has gone before. It's very exciting, and I know some of you may be going, Mars again, but and we'll keep you updated as we go forth. And who knows, maybe one day we'll broadcast from Mars. Anyway, without further ado, I have assistants with this show, and I couldn't do it by myself. And so you'll hear me from time to time call out to my dear friend Owen. And so I'd like to introduce you to him. Owen, come on in and say hello to the folks at home, if you can, if you're there. And there you are.
Hello, hello.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, Owen. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good today.
I'm
Thanks.
so glad. I'm so glad. How are things in Boston?
Pretty good. We're a little busy today, but excited to be here doing this at the end of the day.
And oh well, I appreciate that. Your check's in the mail. What do you jump outside now and you go to the public gardens now that the weather is picking up and
Oh, yeah.
or are
Great
you
times to go running, lots of walks in the park. Yeah, I live right next to a great reservoir here. You know,
beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful? Do you when you run, do you run in the along the Charles ever or do you have
Oh,
a
yeah.
different route?
Of course,
Yeah,
you have to. You
right.
can't live in Boston and not take runs around the Charles.
As you do, as they say. So that's exciting. I'm so glad to hear it. This is always uh, a nice time weather-wise when things lighten up in this part of the world, anyway, and people feel a little bit lighter, and maybe they don't have to wear that sweater outside, and definitely not that jacket. So it's always nice to pick up on that energy and spread that around. So, well, thank you for sharing all of that. I will tease out. I know you have a special trip coming up.
I
Are we
do.
at liberty? Are we at liberty to talk about
Of
that here?
course. Of
Okay.
course.
He's going to. It's a tough trip. He's going to a very the climate is not really soothing.
No,
It's
not.
not even really an exciting place geographically. Um, he's going where? Where are you going, Owen?
I'm headed to Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's got to be so hard. Um, that's fantastic. You're going to Hawaii. You're going to Maui, right?
Yep. Not all trip visiting the parents, but
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
sometime in the sun.
Well, I love family time, so that's fantastic. So that's I'm also bringing this up so that your fans know that you will actually not be with us the next couple of weeks. Seth will be back with us, but then Owen will return. So I know
Mm.
Owen that you only had your first one with us, but I know that the chat boxes have been filling up on your end, and social media has been blown up. So so we just have to make sure people have time to plan. All right. Well, folks, Owen's going to be here with us the whole time in case you have any questions and technical questions and whatnot. He takes care of all the buttons and the bips and daps and boops. So, Owen, stick around. We'll have some fun today.
All right.
So that brings me to our fun next segment that I like to call "Name That Verse." Okay, name that verse. What is name that verse? Name that verse is a fun moment that I wanted to introduce here in the show that allows us to enjoy that first part of a song in the American songbook that is often excluded from the songs when they're recorded. So, first, what is a verse? The verse is that introduction part, sometimes even before an introduction, that is considered maybe incidental music that was written most of the time in the 20s, 30s, and 40s to give cover to the entrance, the beginning of a scene to get them into the song and dance. So there was, they'd be talking and then they would segue, sort of like in opera, they do that a lot, the recitative. So it's a similar kind of a thing. And those verses are often beautiful and sometimes not so accessible to the ear, but the those verses just fell by the wayside as singers would and big band leaders would extract the songs from whatever movie they were written for, and they would just go with the meat of the song that was often most recognizable, and that would sell more records and sell, you know, and it would kick back to the sheet music, et cetera, and so forth. So what I've done over the past 20 years or so is in my shows, I like to include as many of the verses as possible. And it's a fun moment because folks in the audience usually don't know what song I'm going to sing. And then when the recognizable part of the song comes, it's a nice, fun aha moment. And we all kind of have a good time connecting about that. So I thought, why not do that here? And I like to tack on a little charity element to it and create a little contest here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to play the verse to this song, and I'm not going to do the chorus or the most recognizable part. And if you recognize the song, you're going to put the title in the comments section, in that comments box. So now's a good time to locate that, whatever device you are watching from. And you're going to put in if you think you know the title. And you don't get extra points for putting in the composer and the year it was written, but you might get an email from me going, fantastic, we should talk. We have a shared love. So I play the verse, you guess it. The first person in the comment box to guess it correctly then will be the winner. What does it mean to win? It means that you will get a free copy of any of my CDs. I got 5 albums out, and I will ship one no cost to you, your choice, and I will make a donation to an organization I support regularly called Samaritans. Samaritans is an organization that has a mission to prevent suicide, and they do that through outreach, support, education, grief support. They're incredible, and I've gotten to know them very well over the past 12 years or so, and I highly recommend. Even if you don't get involved with them financially, head on over to their website, SamaritansHope.org, and just learn a little bit about what they're doing on a local and national level. In case you know someone who is struggling in any way with any kind of mental illness and doesn't know where to turn. I would put out that mental illness, I think, is one of the most undiagnosed conditions that we face in this country today, and that's something that we need to address. And so I support Samaritans, and maybe today you can help me support Samaritans too with Name That Verse. So without further ado, here we go. I was blue, just as blue as I could be. Every day was a cloudy day for me. Then true love came a knocking at my door. Skies were gray, but they're not gray anymore. And there you go, folks. Time to name that verse. Okay, well, that was fun, wasn't it? I can't wait to see who gets it and what responses come in. We will check back at the end, and I will play the verse one more time as I'm about to reveal the correct answer. Now, my guest today is an incredible musician. And I don't say that lightly. It's one of my favorite parts of the show is really taking a deeper dive into my guests and the work that they've done, past what I've heard, either on the scene or either through albums that I have or whatnot, and streaming and so forth. You know, this artist, and he hails from the Boston area as well. So we got a whole Boston contingent going on today's show, and the what makes him so special is that he's had an amazing career, and he is one of the nicest people I've met, and I've only recently met him. And so I can't wait to share his energy with you. And I will skip all the adjectives that I want to say right now, and I'm just going to bring him on. So please, ladies and gentlemen, put your right and left hand together several times so we can hear him through the Ethernet for Andy Ezrin. Please welcome to the show, Andy Ezrin.
How you doing?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty well, I have to say. All things considered, here we are enjoying
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Here we are
Yeah.
transitioning. Tell
Yes.
me, tell me how has it been for you these past 15 months?
Oh
Where
boy.
am I finding you? I know. Keep it in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. So I was
tell me.
born. No, it's been challenging, but there's been reward. It's been rewarding, and when I look back at it the other day, I guess maybe to sum it up, I think a lot of good things have come out of it. It's been a challenge for all of us. It's been uh, a look inward for all of us, and I
Mhm.
think that everybody has grown in a certain way. I hope it's been you learn from the tough times, and there have been certainly plenty of that, and coming out on the other side of it, as I feel we sort of are. I think that it feels hopeful, and it feels like I'm hoping that people have been able to use this as a way to things constantly change, but I hope it's for me it's been a way to work on certain things and use it because we've never seen anything the likes of this. So I
Mm.
think it's important that we've learned something about ourselves, hopefully. And I guess nobody likes to shake things up this much, but I think some good things have come from it, like your show, and people have had to kind of reinvent themselves and stay positive, and
Yeah,
which is
speaking
no small feat.
so speaking of which, how have you reinvented yourself?
Well, one thing I realize is that some people said, I've always wanted to learn how to do this, that, the other, or build a deck, or do this, and I realized that I kind of always knew this, that since I was maybe 15, I realized that not only is music my life, but it's kind of, I'm one of those guys where it's just a hobby too. So when I'm not, it's, and you can relate to this, even if you don't have a gig, or which I didn't have a bunch. It's you the creative juices don't stop flowing. For some people they did, and I had a friend that called me and said, you know what, I just don't feel like practicing. I said, you know what, that's okay. And he did something similar to what you're doing, where he interviewed um, other musicians just as a way to connect, because we were all, the first thing we're trying to do is use all this technology and all this stuff to connect with each other, because that's the type of species we are. That's who we are. So I guess for me, I kind of did a bit of a deep dive into writing, which is something that I always aspire to. It's something that I realize I've always done in one shape or another, whether I didn't consider myself a writer. So I've written a lot of music, and I practiced a lot. I got into a regiment that just came really natural to me, and it was almost like brought me back to why I started music and piano in the first place, which was a bit of a getaway, which was sort of a
Mm.
creating a personal, like a, I guess, a safe, a special place for myself in my little
Mm.
imaginative world. And I got back more into that. So, sometimes when you're grinding and you're working on this and you're just chasing a buck and trying to keep your career going, you don't have time to do all these things. So
Right.
that sort of just happened in terms of me creating a space where I could just create. And
Yeah, beautiful. So I want to
yeah,
make sure that folks realize exactly who I'm talking to here. So I want to make sure. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's you I'm talking about. Your career has been pretty incredible so far, and I can't. It would take the whole show to go through all of your credits and experiences, but I do want to just give people a sense of what it's like. What your life has been like, and the some of the performances and people that you've worked with. Some lesser known folks, like, I mean, for me, in your jazz roots and whatnot, and working with New York voices. By the
mm-hmm.
way, Marcello Pelletieri is a dear friend of mine, and
And mine as well.
and
Yeah,
and he produced an album for me. He's been on two of my
he's the
records, and
best.
he's a saint.
Yeah.
So Marcello Pelletieri, wonderful drummer, of course, of the New York Voices. So all right, I'm just gonna list off a few things I'm gonna read so I get them all correctly. Some lesser known folks like Chris Bodie, Joe Jackson, David Sanborn, Wynton Marsalis, Joe Lovano, and Ravi Coltrane. That's just like tip of the iceberg in the jazz world. But then you stretched out a bit and you were like, let me check out these other two people, like Bono and the Edge. Let me see what that's about. Sting, James Taylor, Lady Gaga, John Mayer, Cyndi
And
Lauper, Shaka Khan, Michael Bublé, or Mike as we call him, Van
Mikey.
Morrison, Mikey Bubble, Patty Austin, Diane
Yeah.
Shure, Yo-Yo Ma, Renee Fleming, Dr. John. That's
Yeah.
just individuals. Then you were like, let me check out TV. And it was like Sesame Street, Oprah Winfrey, Rosie O'Donnell, Late Show with David Letterman, Tony Danza
Right.
show. I mean, and now, of course, you've finally arrived here on Mondays with Marcus. Like, and we couldn't have had you
It
earlier.
was all a stepping
It's,
stone to get to this point, Marcus.
it's, I mean, it's all connected, right? I mean, it makes sense to me
Absolutely.
when I think about it that way. So, my question for you is, did you did you ever have a pinch me moment where you had to
Oh
like
yeah.
make sure this was really your life, or were you like, nah, this is what it's supposed to be? And if so, when was that moment?
It's funny you mentioned, some of these artists, you stick around long enough, and I've you know the funny thing about all of that is it's like that, you would know the Frank Sinatra lyric about that's life. One day you're up
Sure.
here, and then the next day you're playing some.
Riding
I
high in
remember
April, shot down in May.
shot down in May. There you go, and here we are.
And here
So
we are, which is why I had you on, and it's probably the only reason I could get you on the show is what it is.
you could
That
shoot me down any month. I'm good. So and the thing is that, like, I remember early on when I was living in Boston, actually. Shout out to Owen. Um, and I had this tour. I think it was with New York Voices, and one of my big first tours to go to Europe. I was at the Bern Jazz Festival. I was hanging out with, meeting Dr. John in the dressing room, and like Branford Marsalis walking by, and Dr. And Les McCann, and all my like heroes. And then I had to go back, and I was living in Boston. I had to go back to work, and I had gotten, I don't know if this ever happened to you, I got overpaid for a bunch of gigs that I would play for this guy, and he was like a really funny guy. He was a character, and he'd call you up, and he was just a super, like a jazz character, and he would have like all sorts of stuff going on. He sold makeup, he did all sorts of stuff, and he lived across the street from me. I lived what is now at Berkeley, on the street, Haviland Street. And he'd be like, "Hey, gargantuan guy," he would call me and say, he was just a real character. And he would say, "Would you want to play a concert in so and so?" And what he meant by concert was like, this guy, I had gigs in department stores and like next to the lingerie set. I mean, this guy, wherever there was a piano, this guy got the gig. And
Right.
so I had to go from this, touring, big festival. And then he had overpaid me by a few weeks, like by accident. And of course, being
That's
just
rough.
hand to
I'm
mouth,
sorry.
sure. Right. So
Yeah.
he's, I think, man, I think you owe me a few gigs. So as soon as I get off the plane, like the next night, I'm playing in some spot where nobody's listening, and I'm like, wow, this is, here we are. So I don't know if this relates to anything, but the point is just like play for yourself and enjoy it, because you don't know where you are. And
Well, what I'm waiting for, and I thought it might have been when you were in the lingerie section, I'm waiting for
yes,
your pinch me moment. Is that when you were like, "Now this is
right.
it. This is."
So speaking of which, the pinch me moment,
Yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is like you know, you're just hustling and hustling, and then you grab things, and luckily your name gets around, and this comes in. So you don't. A lot of times you're putting 100% in 10%. But speaking of a pinch me moment, I had the time I worked with James Taylor was a really cool moment. Was for Carnegie Hall, and that included Renee Fleming and Yo-Yo Ma, and Yo-Yo and James. We were rehearsing upstairs for the big concert up at the top of Carnegie Hall. And I don't know about you, but I grew up with JT, and he was so cool. And
absolutely.
he said to me, and we were rehearsing. He said, "Man, you sound great." And he said, I said, "I haven't even gotten to all the, times my favorite JT tunes." And he goes, and he says something like, "Oh man, well, we got to get together and play them." And I'm just like, a humming. And I was
Yeah.
just like, that's not going to happen. But that just made my week. And then the weirdest thing happened. So through Chris Bodie, who's really good friends with Sting, he, I've done a few little gigs and things with Sting in that world a
Right.
little bit. And Chris and him are very close. They do stuff together. And I've gotten to meet him, super great guy. And so I'm sort of on this high after this rehearsal. And I walk out of Carnegie Hall, and I said, "I'm going to go take a little picture. I'm the worst self promoter ever, but I'll take a little picture." And it's got JT's picture, and I'm really excited about this. So I took a minute to go across around to 57th and take the front picture. And I'm walking across 57th Street, and there's Sting, and we're literally in the middle of the street, and I'm just like, ah, he's a big hugger. He's a real hugger. So it's just like, and I just say a quick hi. There's cars going everywhere. "Hey man, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm great." And I walk down. I keep walking down 57th Street West, and I'm just like, what is going on, man? This is just so cool. Such a cool day. And because these are our heroes. These are our icons. These are the
Right.
benchmarks.
Yeah. Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
was one of them.
Well, that's fantastic. So I wanna know the other end of the spectrum.
Yes.
When you look back on everything that you've accomplished so far, and you can answer this again, personal or professional, what would you say is your proudest moment?
Oh man. That's a good one. I've had moments where I've gotten to a certain stage, and like the first time coming out in Carnegie Hall, like I was with the Voices and Count Basie, and we were warming up for Lena Horne. I'm trying to think. This might be 97, or it was early on. And there are moments where you're just like, wow. I did a thing in Philadelphia. My dad was a piano player, like an amateur, but he was really good. And I remember calling him once after playing a gig with Bodie and the Philadelphia, what is it, the symphony or orchestra, the Philadelphia orchestra. And it was just an amazing experience with the piano and the orchestra. And it was newer to me. And I've since done some stuff, but I just had a moment where I had to take a train straight back from Philly to New York. And I called my dad and I said, you know what, this was kind of, this was pretty cool. This just happened, and I kind of had to call him to say, this feels like a bit of a,
Hmm.
like a benchmark, I guess,
Was that
but
your
there's
first
been a
time?
lot of those little moments. I think to answer your question, it's not always just one big moment. There are things that and there are times when, for me, where I feel that I could just be walking around and doing something and going, you know what? Or in a project or in the middle of something, and you step out of yourself for a minute as you do, and you say, wow, this is pretty cool. And it's not
Hmm.
always the most famous person or the most, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just the level of the project. I had that last week where I was working on a French record, and I'm played live with all these people, and there's a bunch of these jazz stars coming in, and it was just any chance to get together with people in a room to make
Right.
music is special these days. And so
Right.
this was special because it was my friend. His music was great. It was a meaningful experience, and he chose me to do it. So
Yeah.
there's a there's a ton of guys out there. So um, I think as far more as I go, I really don't take it. I don't want to take advantage of it. I mean, I don't want to take it for granted anymore because there's so many great musicians out there, and it it makes me feel happy to be a part of something. So when I'm a part of a project or something, I feel
Mhm.
like that feeling of, I guess you would say, success or progress creeps in. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful. I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, it resonates with me to hear you say that, I guess is what I
Mm,
mean, because, again, having listened to your music and a lot of your original music, I get there's a very welcoming vibe. For me, it feels very inclusive. Uh,
cool.
um, and there's no lyrics, but like I hear, it's like, it feels like you want me to listen. It feels like you want me to be a part of the music you're creating, whether you've written the song or not, actually. And I think
Right.
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful connection that your person. That's why I mentioned at the top that I was like, you know what, that's my favorite thing about just what I've experienced of you so far and how I've
Oh,
received you is that
cool.
it feels
Thanks.
like now hearing you say that, it sort of confirms for me, about your writing, and it makes sense that so much of your personality is evident in and comes through your music. And I
Right.
think that's very special.
Thank you.
And I think it's a perfect segue to hear you play something. So let's give you the stage, and we'll give you a solo cam there, and take it away, Andy Ezrin, everybody.
Okay. I'll tell you what it is later.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful, Andy.
Thanks. Thank
Thank
you.
you. What is that? What did you call that piece?
That is a piece that I wrote this summer called Cascades, and it's a bit of a homage to one of my heroes, the Brazilian artist Ivan Lins, who of course
Wow.
wrote. I'm trying to think. He wrote. Why do I think of? He wrote. What's it called? Velas, which means like sails in the wind, and he has these beautiful lyrics. They're obviously in Portuguese, but there's a lot of allusion to nature and stuff. So this was had this sort of flowing thing, and I'm also was sort of just I got a chance to work with him a couple of summers ago and do it like a little mini tour with him, which was amazing because he's one of my favorite composers, and
Wow.
so just sort of some of the way that the harmonies move, I was sort of influenced by him, and so
And
that's why.
has that song been recorded yet?
No, no, it's waiting to be.
Was this
I need
was this a
I
debut? Was this Did you just debut this song
let's
here
see.
on
You
the
know, I
show?
might have. Yeah, somewhat of it. You know,
'Cause now
I
I'm
might
gonna
have.
have to call the PR department here and let them know
Yeah.
what we're dealing with here. This is
Can I get sued?
groundbreaking.
I don't know. You
Hey, Fred. Oh, Fred.
know.
Everyone in every department in my company is called Fred, so just so you know.
Yeah, yeah. All the
Fred does
friends.
my yeah, it's all the Fred. Fred 1, Fred 2. Andy, you're a blast to chat with, and I wanna let you know
Thanks.
that my family all has its roots in Newton as well, and
Oh, get
so
out. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, we
Newton
have
is a Newton's a very interesting place. There's like a lot of my mother, who's 89, went to school with a guy named Robert Morse, who you might know as a famous actor. He was in that
that.
movie and show How to Succeed in Business Without Really
Yes, yes,
Trying,
yes. Thank
and
you.
like Jack Lemon's from Newton.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
you know who's from Newton, and he's a monstrous artist. Speaking of James Taylor and everybody else, is Larry
Andy Ezrin.
Golding. Ugh, not that guy. No,
Yeah.
um, Larry Goldings is from like a lot of musicians and a lot of actors, and
Oh,
the
wow.
guy from so um,
Well, I got my family is from Newton. My
you're in your
grandparents
family, okay?
but I grew up in Buffalo, so I
Right,
and my dad's family's in Milton and Randolph area,
right.
is where he grew up, but my mom grew up in Newton, and we spent pretty much, like, half my life easily going there for the holidays.
It's
And
a nice place to grow
it's
up.
beautiful. Yeah.
It's really
So
cool.
that's fantastic.
Louis C.K. went to Newton North High School, I guess, a couple of
Oh,
years
okay.
maybe
All
after
right.
me. So
All roads,
there's a lot of
not
Newton
to mention
stuff
the fig,
happening.
not to mention the figs. I mean, pretty special. Do you know
Who?
the figs, as in the
What?
fig Newtons?
The figs, all of the fig.
All of them. Fig 1, fig 2.
We
Anyway,
call
all
them.
right, great. Why don't we toss up some information about how to get Andy's music and support him directly? His latest album called Dusk. It's incredible. It's all original music. Andy will correct me if I'm misspeaking here. But you can go to andyezrin.com, pick up a copy. Also, if you'd like to just send Andy a bunch of money, he loves to get overpaid apparently. So go ahead and send some money to him at his Venmo there, and you can follow him on social media. What a cool guy. Look at there sitting at that keyboard. It's very cool. And make sure to connect with Andy in your own, learn everything that you can about Andy. Andy, this has been a blast chatting with you, but this is only
Thank you.
part one, so you're going to stick around. So,
Okay.
like, go in the green room, have a nosh. We got a whole spread for you there,
Oh,
and we'll check in with you in just a bit. But thanks so
thanks a
much,
lot.
and we'll hear more from Andy Ezrin in just a few moments, folks. If you have enjoyed yourself today and you would, after you have supported Andy Ezrin, of course, and you would like to see this series continue, we would like to give you the opportunity to do so. I have obviously technical costs and all kinds of things that keep this ship in the air or in the water. And so I rely on your generosity, and you all have been. This is our 8th episode, believe it or not. I know it's just getting our sea legs, but it's been going really well, and I owe so much of that to you. So if you'd like to support us, Owen will toss up the information on how you can support us directly. There's either PayPal or Venmo, whatever is your preference. If it is PayPal, I'd like you to consider us friends, if you know what I mean. And then, of course, we'd really appreciate it if you head on over to my YouTube channel, where many of you are watching the show from right now, and subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we do go live. And I also create a lot of other content that you can enjoy, premieres, etc., and so forth, as well as YouTube Shorts. And so that is all of that. Now, if you're sitting back wherever you are right now, and you're saying to yourself, "Well, this is great. I can support Andy Ezrin. I can support this show Mondays with Marcus, and I just want to do more." And for those of you out there who are sitting there saying that to yourselves, well, you're in luck, because I happen to have some merchandise for you. So you have 5 albums to choose from, plus a t-shirt and a hat. The t-shirt and the hat are connected to the Veterans album called Carry You on the right or left side of your screen with the American flag. That is a project that I recorded to bridge the disconnect between civilians and military families. And half of the proceeds of every physical album sale go to support Iraq, Afghanistan Veterans of America. It's a beautiful nonprofit doing a lot of work that aligns with my passion and interests. And it's iava.org. You can find out more information about them. So that is all of my merchandise. And folks, now before we close out here, it's time to finish up our second round of Name the Verse. All right, folks. So what you had before, of course, is this verse, and then I will go ahead and continue and tell you and sing the song for you. So, skies were gray. Well, that's not how it begins. I was blue, just as blue as I could be. Every day was a cloudy day for me. Then true love came a knocking at my door. Skies were gray, but they're not gray anymore. Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but bluebirds all day long. And to hear the rest of the song, you have to wait till I record it. But you all know that song very well. And I think we had a winner. And I think that winner was actually my dad, who has multiple copies of my albums right now. So he's not going to get one, but I will make a donation to Samaritans in his name. Yes, you did get it right, Dad. Uh, he's actually probably learned a lot more verses to these songs than he knew before. because the shows and whatnot. So that's kind of cool when you get to pass things back up the generation as opposed to typically learning things back down. So, folks, we have reached the end of our first part. And I've had such a thrill getting to know Andy. I hope you have too. Um, this show is so fun because I get to welcome in obviously a new guest every week. And next week, I'm going to bring in Andrea Wolper. Andrea Wolper is an incredible human and a wonderful songwriter and singer, and just a wonderful friend. She makes music better. She makes the world of music better, and I'm so excited that she's going to take some time out to join me and to celebrate wherever we are together. So, without further ado, I do want to also remind you that we have an after party coming up, and Andy's going to stick around for that. And he's also going to share with us a secret that he's never told anyone before on camera. He doesn't even know that I've just promised that, so I'm going to be very interested to see what he comes up with. But before we get to the after party, we've come together for a moment today, young ones and some who would rather not say. Finding connection isn't easy, I know, and that's why I created this show. Have a great week, folks. Unless you stick around for the after party, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Everybody loves a perfect theme song, a melody that stays inside your heart. You might have a nice show and others may think so, but if you want a great connection right from the start, then you gotta have a perfect theme song, so everyone can sing along from home. And while they are singing, the ratings you'll bring in, all because the melody is stuck in their head. You can make the bridge sound Jewish, that would be fine, long as it's familiar but newish, everyone's falling in line. All because you got a perfect theme song, accompanying the audience for years. And when the show is over, it won't be the end, because the perfect theme song's a life-lasting friend. And speaking of friends, he's your host and MC, 'cause Mondays with Marcus is now a live stream. Whoa, 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 yeah.
Tonight a simple melody appeared to me. I thought it was the remedy for what ailed me, but it was not the remedy for this apparent felony called love. I get myself in trouble with each girl I call. I'm certain it's from flirting all around the hall. I think I need some medicine, 'cause when the girls say let us in, I fall. My symptoms are the worst by far. I'm burning with a fever, and I'm afraid of the married life. But what if I can't leave her? And so I'll sing this melody each night and day. I find it helps remind the girls to stay away, for I've done so much lusting that there's no more room for trusting in love, in love.
My symptoms are the worst by far. I'm burning with a fever, and I'm afraid of the married life. But what if I can't leave her? And so I'll sing this melody each night and day. I find it helps remind the girls to stay away. For I've done so much lusting that there's no more room for trusting in love, in love. I promise that I'll change my life and completely rearrange my life. If you commit this felony with me, oh yeah. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the after party. My goodness. Now we are getting closer and closer to being back in person. I know. And if we were in person now, we'd be hanging out at a little club I opened up back in 2019 called Room 623. Now, Room 623 is a beautiful speakeasy lounge that has been silent over the past year and change, as many of the clubs have been. And we opened the doors on April 5th, 2019, and we were just, increasing in buzz and momentum and whatnot. But when we had to close the doors, we, again, like many other clubs, weren't prepared for what was to happen next. So we haven't been live streaming and whatnot, but we are looking forward to opening the doors again. We have made lots of plans for late summer, early fall. I will start to tease that out, but please don't ask for a specific date because we don't know just yet. But that last song that I just sang, by the way, is called "A Felony Called Love." It's an original tune that I wrote actually together with Mr. John Davis, who was featured on the piano there. Marcello Pelleteri, formerly mentioned here in the conversation with Andy, and he's on drums, and Martin Wind is on bass, and the album is called Take Me Anywhere. And look at that, I happen to have a copy. How about that? You can have a copy too. How, you may ask? Owen, tell the folks at home how they can get a copy of any of my albums, please. Look at that. Just like that, there's all the information for you. Well, so this club, Room 623, what did it look like? Oh, man, it was, oh, Owen, you got me. Here we go. We're covered here. That's just a snapshot of what the vibe was like on any given night. High energy, positive, healing music pouring out of the club. It's a small place, a small venue, very immersive jazz. And there's the website there in the comment section if you'd like to check us out. And if you want to throw us a couple of shekels and whatnot to help us reopen as strongly as possible, we certainly would appreciate that. You want to keep checking in on the website so you can see our upcoming artists and the updates about what our policies are going to be and reopening and whatnot. And I'm sad to say that before we had to shut the doors, my guest today we weren't able to get him in to perform there, but we did meet just outside the club. And so if it weren't for that moment, and then maybe Andy and I wouldn't know each other, and that would be I would be worse for that. So without further ado, I would like to bring back to the after party Mr. Andy Ezrin. Please put your hands together. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's me coming back.
Yeah, you stuck around. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
I mean,
Where am I going?
there you go.
I
There
love
you
it
go.
here.
It's fun. I'll tell you this. My mom, very supportive. I'm sure she's watching right now. She says to me when I started this, she's very, oh yeah, she's in Newton watching this from Newton.
Oh, geez. Hi, Mom.
Yeah. So
Maybe
she said,
my mom's watching from Needham.
oh,
Next
there
door.
you go. Well, my mom, when she first got word that I was doing this and she saw the first episode, she said, "Oh my God, it's so exciting! You're on TV. It's like wow!" And and she said you're just so comfortable, and you're just so right at home,
Yeah.
in front of the camera. And my sister chimes in and she said, "Mom, he literally is right home in front of the camera.
He's at his home in front of the
He's
camera.
at his home." I was like, "Yep, thank you, sis." Who is just equally as supportive and whatnot. But
That's
it's
great.
it's wild, right? It's wild what we're all
And I
doing
got to
now.
tell you, if
Go
you're
ahead.
really good, you're really good at this. And I don't know if you know, I don't know if I can say that as a guest, but it's fun and engaging. And I've watched a few of them. And yes, we just met because of room, the Speakeasy, room 623, which we didn't get a chance to play there. But it's funny how we've managed to keep something going, and I appreciate you including me. But
Hey, man,
you're good at this, and it's engaging, and you sound great. The band
thank,
sounds great that you've got,
thank
between
you,
John
thank
and
you.
Marcello, and it's killing. I mean, it's. I think it's. I know a few people, including myself, that have tried to do this, and they have not done it with the same panache that you have. And I don't throw
I
out compliments lightly. It's true. It's just super profesh. What can I say?
Well, thank you. You must be running short on time, or you would have finished that last word. I understand, but it's
We
tough
gotta go.
these days. We got to get
But you
going.
do keep it moving, and that's maybe why I'm inspired to not
Maybe
finish the word
exactly.
professional.
From now on, the rest of the interview, we will only finish half of the words we speak, if they're multisyllabic. So
Yeah.
from now on, we'll just have to say, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is and Ez,"
And
and
it's we're all getting shorter.
we'll
That's
let you
my
play the
music.
piano, and we'll see what songs you
Oh,
come up with. Yeah, I mean, we'll
we
just keep
do.
this going.
We
Andy,
do.
so all right, Boston, please tell me you're a Sox fan. I don't even know. Do you follow baseball? You
I
have
don't
to.
know anything about sports, but I
Wow. Okay.
remember that until a few years back, to be a Sox fan was like kind of like to be a Mets fan or like
Yeah.
they always got to the finish line, but they never got it, and so I was
Yeah.
always in the fact that, and I know nothing about baseball, but or many sports for that matter, but
It's up
I
and
always
coming. I think you're going to start hearing more about baseball.
yeah, I've heard good
I
things
think
about it.
I
It's
think it's going to make a comeback.
the bat, and yeah, it's
It had a moment. It had a moment.
you hear a lot about it.
You do, as you well, yes, it is somewhat of a religion,
Yeah,
but, it is there's so much drama in it. I actually I
yeah.
was first drawn to baseball. I mean, I grew up playing Little League and everything, but, I was first drawn and continue to be drawn to it because of the synergy and the similarities and the crossover between the arts, and there's so much in baseball that I call upon. This may sound crazy, but, if you don't know anything about baseball, but I do call upon a lot,
Cool.
and yes, the Red Sox. We have all Red Sox Nation has had a rough go of it up until 2004, which I'm sure is what you're referring to.
Yeah, and
And
it's so nice.
we can lest I start to lose viewers, we'll have a whole show dedicated just to the Red Sox, and we can talk about that, and maybe you will watch your first game here with
I think they should get them on Mars, and that'll
oh
increase the
now
interest. No, see
now
how
you're
I.
talking baseball on Mars. I'm with you, Andy. I'm with you.
I
There's
always
very
think
little.
it'd be a tough gig for a weather guy on Mars, because stuff's not
Yeah,
really changed. We did see
one
a
report.
rover up there. We saw a rover up there, and we did see this. And
Yeah.
didn't
Listen,
the no,
I'm
didn't the Chinese just do some? Did they go to Mars or did they go to the moon? I don't remember.
I don't know, so I don't want to
They
speak out of
just did
turn.
something. I don't
I
know.
have been pretty narrowly focused, I will
You're
admit,
just smart.
on I've just been focusing on Mars because, you know, moon schmoon. We've heard so
Yeah,
much about this
that
moon
old
thing.
place. Yeah.
That old place, been there, done that. No, I would go to the moon, but I just feel like now that here's what I'll leave you with this. I said this, I think, in the first episode, but I think that there are those watching our progress. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, for
Hold on.
sure.
Let me get my tinfoil hat here. Let me. It's around here somewhere. I know. It's under. Oh,
And they're
I
probably
lined.
watching this show right now too.
Of
By the way.
course. Are you kidding? All the press I'm giving them? Are you? I mean, please. They're waiting. They're going to make first contact here online. They're just going to come in and
Yeah.
intercept the feed here, and they'll be
This
like,
will
"We
be in the first time
where
capsule over there for sure.
exactly? Where is this Marcus figure? We want to meet this human. He's been tell him to stop talking about. They're ruining our PR."
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
and get back to you, because that's why you're here.
Okay.
And so you are a songwriter. You've written for a lot of these TV shows that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Sesame Street. You worked on the remake, which I didn't even know there was a remake of The Electric Company.
Yes.
Did that
Yes.
and that actually happened? That's blows my mind. I grew up watching, towards the end. I mean,
Yeah.
that was in the early 70s. I was born in 78, but I started, but it was on, reruns were constantly on. And I always remember, what is it? Shoo, Shoo, Sunshine, that blues tune
Oh
that
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Morgan Freeman sang.
That's right. Morgan Freeman and who?
Oh, Rita
Rita
Moreno,
Moreno. Yeah, it was
um,
amazing. Yeah,
Mel Brooks, Mel Blanc. I mean, it's a who's who. Bill
everybody was on
Cosby.
that.
It was a big star-studded show. I mean, and they were all at the beginning of their careers.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah, they were really young. This was a.
Joan,
I
Joan,
think
Joan
this was.
Rivers. Sorry, just had to add that one.
Was
Joan
she in
Rivers.
there? Joan
Yeah,
Rivers.
Joan
Oh,
Rivers.
man.
I mean, a lot of them made cameos and were on for certain episodes. But um, anyway, go on. You were going to say.
Yeah. No, and when we did the show, I worked with a guy who has become the head writer for the past 10 years of Sesame Street. So he started doing that,
Hmm.
and that show kind of fizzled. And then he got a little gig at Sesame Street, and a guy named Bill Sherman, who's wonderful, and he's
I know
done.
Bill.
Yeah, Bill is the best.
Yeah,
And
I've
so I,
worked with Bill. He's
yeah, so I dip in there once in a while, and that's a great. He's really breathed a lot of new life into into that show. And Electric Company was interesting because it was all MIDI stuff, and we would sort of come in and paint over it with live playing. So
Mm,
as you generate like a computer MIDI track, and that's what they did. And then they said, well, we want to add little flavors of real stuff and drums
yeah.
and play live. So that was really cool. It was a fun time, a good group of guys, and then just lasted for a little while. But I do remember the original, which was in the
Classic.
'70s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
classic. Grew up watching that 3, 2, 1 Contact, and anyway, as you saw in the opening, I have a thing for TV theme show songs, and
I
I
love
love
that
them.
theme, by the way.
Oh, thank you. But I love the dedication that the songwriters that created them, because I do think that has sustained. I mean, I think some of these shows lasted as long as they did because of
Oh
the
yeah,
music. But so I want to ask you, when you, because you said you've enhanced and you've done a lot. You've taken a deeper dive into your songwriting this past summer and during
right,
the pandemic.
right.
Um, so is your writing process different when you're writing for yourself versus when you're writing for any of these projects, like say the TV project, Sesame Street or whatnot? And then of course with the kid element involved, um, what does that bring to your process, in terms of
Well,
how you're creating the song?
the main bit of writing I've done. I did a show with a friend, Jody Gray, who's a does a lot of kid stuff. In The process working together is completely. And we just did a film over the winter, which was all remote. I guess some of the process is the same. For me, I guess, hmm, it's interesting. I guess the main difference is that when I'm just sitting down writing, and I always think that artists and musicians should keep a little tiny percentage of that, or if not a giant percentage, if they're lucky in their
I was gonna
career,
say,
to
yeah,
themselves, where you just sitting down and you're sort of directing traffic, but you're letting things happen. And there's the difference between that and, so say, for instance, scoring to picture, is that, and most of the work that I do, whether it's playing or writing, is to support and be sort of subservient to either somebody else's vision, or like I wrote the show and I need music for this kind of thing, or I wanted people to feel this way. And but so there's that, and that's a skill that's can be an art form. And yet I guess when I'm sitting down to write for myself, I'm not even thinking about. I'm sort of letting all that other stuff, like I have to write something like this. It's more like either I'll get a feeling, or I'll listen to maybe a little kernel of something, and
mm,
then it could take it. Some things can draw out for months. I've lived with certain songs. I lived with certain little phrases for years and not developed them, and then they sort of recur, almost like if it's like it's part of your DNA. There's certain things that
sure,
recur because I guess you need to feel them again, or they've stood the test of time, and you wrote this one little bit 10 years ago or something. And
yeah.
if you actually remembered to write it down, or you remembered it, or it stayed inside you, then maybe it's worth checking out. And
And then you
so,
can pull that into your, I mean, I don't know, I do that. I mean, I'll
yeah,
grab like half-written pieces of one thing that didn't work as a part, like, or extra parts from songs, and it'll be like, that
yeah,
was too much for that song, but actually that would work really well for this thing that I have 3 days to write for, that someone's like, it has to be about this, this,
yeah,
this, this, and this, and you're like,
sure.
this is your vision, not
It
mine.
works. It works perfectly there, and you think, and maybe by doing that, it'll see the light of day. But
Yeah.
yeah, and it's funny how there are certain things that where I've had a friend of mine who has a music library, and you put in just songs, and you have to create content, so you just have to keep pouring out ideas. And sometimes when you're just pouring something out and you're just like, I got to get it done. There's something to
Right.
that where that process of just, I got to create something. I have a deadline or I got to do something. You'd be surprised what's inside of you. And then
Yeah.
sometimes if you write something that's almost like, oh, this is too good to end up on some background of
Hmm.
some reality TV show, I'm going to keep it for myself. And you kind of know those moments. If there's something that I guess speaks to you that's really important, that moves you in a certain way, then, and it's hard to do this, but you sort of listen to that and say, okay, well, I'm gonna, this is special. And I think you as a, you know those kind of things. You sort of
Absolutely, they're golden.
intrinsically,
I mean, when
yeah,
you have that moment where it's rare. It's a when you have that, it's a unicorn. When you have that moment where you hear something and you're like, I know that's special. So often I'll complete a song and I'll have the satisfaction of having complete, like, right, you climb the mountain and it makes sense and there's like the sort of intellectual approach, and
yeah.
but how it's going to be received is a whole other, unknown for, at best. And so
I was playing a gig. There used to be a place in the Film Center building here in Manhattan, which is on 45th and Ninth. There used to be a really hip, like upscale soul food place called Jezebel, and they had a
I
beautiful
remember it.
piano. You remember that place?
Of
And I
course,
had a
all those
gig in
pillows
there.
around and I
Oh, it
love
was
that
so
place.
cool, and they had like had a very southern charm. They had hanging benches from the
Yeah.
ceiling. It was a hip place.
And that beautiful baby grand piano in the corner.
They had a beautiful baby grand that had that like kind of inlay artwork. And
Yeah.
Steinway, they had another pianist who worked for Steinway, and she always wanted to say, "Well, Steinway will buy this back from me," but Alberta, the owner, would never sell it. But it was a fantastic instrument. And I remember doing a gig there, and I played this this one thing like it went, and I think I must have been thinking of my son or something. He was real little, and I started getting a little weepy when I was playing it, which is kind of unlike me. And I just knew it was special. And
Mm.
that song ended up being a song that I wrote for him when he was a little baby called "Innocence Asleep." When you go in your kid's room and they're like these little angels and stuff. So you don't know. Sometimes I think the main thing is to how to let stuff happen and how to be sort of the vessel and not get in the way with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's true, and it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And
I
and
mean,
with the yeah,
you bring your openness. You
absolutely. And with there's a song I'm writing that's, I just think of these titles. They don't necessarily have to relate to words, but there's a song called "The Spaces in Between," with like things happen
mm,
in all those spaces where you don't, like, life happens when you,
yes.
what is it, busy.
You, listen, you're speaking my language now, man. My album, like when I sit down to think, I look for those moments. I mean, look, my first album was called the moment after,
Right.
and I'm like
Very cool.
I have an album called Almost Love. It's like all these like
Yeah.
penultimate situations, or like what happens in that moment that doesn't get a lot of attention. That
Yeah.
is
And
equally poignant.
we've had a lot of that space to create, whether we like it or not. We've been, while we're tearing our hair out, and like, when are we going to get back to all this other
Yeah.
stuff is still happen. Life is still happening. So, there you have
Yeah, yeah, that's,
it.
man, alright, so I'm gonna ask you, one thing before I wanna hear you play again. This is a big question, so if you wanna wait and answer this afterwards, you're welcome to. This is not any kinda lightning round yet, we're gonna get there.
Ooh.
But, what is at the top? I mean, again, and I look back at everything that you've accomplished so far that, that compared to all that I know you've sought out to accomplish, right? I don't know you personally that well yet, but I will. No, I'm kidding. It's great. Um, but, but considering everything that you've accomplished so far, what what is on your what's at the top of your bucket list?
It's kind of, if you think about it, it's a little ridiculous. But so before COVID, so I've always been a bit of have been a sideman. I've always been somebody that's supported, and I've always shied away from being anything but something that's supportive. So I guess my main goal, and you know how, and I will tell you, you and everybody else are better at promoting themselves than I am. There's nobody worse, but
First rule is you probably should stop saying that.
yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Good point.
Because we don't know
That's
that.
that's my selling point, Marcus. You know? I mean,
Maybe put that on the flyer. Worst promoter ever, and put it everywhere. See what
yeah,
happens.
yeah.
Work
If
it out.
you think I'll out unpromote you, no, but you know, I've always sort of for some reason shied away from it. But recently, I've said to myself, I've said, you know, like you know, you go to some of these gigs and we're playing music of the American Songbook, which is I've grown up playing that stuff and it's part of our of who we are. And it's incredible to see how everybody their take on a song or their approach or whatever. But now recently, I guess for me, the goal, I guess I don't know if that's the question, but the goal or the is to sort of promote my music as a writer and and
Mm.
to accept, everyone's heard, Our Love Is Here to Stay, which is a great song that'll go on for the rest of time. And but why not? These were all original songs, so why not put my music out there? So that's sort of the next, um,
That's exciting. That's exciting, and I would love to
and nerve
support
wracking too.
100%. I didn't. I mean, when I first started writing, my first album, I was terrified to put anything original on
Yeah,
it, and
it's
I wouldn't even accept myself as a writer. And
right.
but you dip your toes in the water, and then eventually just push yourself in. And
Yeah, yeah,
um, so we can talk about that off camera anytime you like, brother. I fully
absolutely.
support that, and I love the American Songbook. I made a
Yeah,
living off the American Songbook, and I
the best.
swim in it every day. But I also love writing, and I love original music, and I love diving into other people's original music. Um,
Yeah,
and
and
even, I
all
mean,
those songs from the American Songbook are original music
are right, exactly, and that's what everyone says.
or
So,
written for
um,
something.
so Andy, let's hear another tune if you are willing. I'd love to
I
hear
am
you.
very willing. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So
So
go ahead.
let me,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me ask you. I'm not sure. I had a song because it reminded me of the hat and the whole kind of Sinatra vibe and everything. I have something
Yeah.
like that. Is there anything in it? And this is sort of like if there's anything particular you want to hear that song or something more upbeat. I don't know.
I would,
See, this
I
is
would love
live.
to. This is live. This is happening. I would love to hear what's in your heart right now. I think whatever you're going to bring fully to
Hmm.
this moment is great. I mean, your original music, and I dived
Oh,
pretty
thanks.
deeply into Dusk and
Oh,
enjoyed
right on. Okay.
a lot of what I heard on that album. But if this tune that the hat told you to play is with you still,
Maybe it
then
does. I don't know.
if
Yeah.
you're feeling it, maybe just put your hands on the keys and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
All
Let me
right.
think. Okay. So let's do that.
Yeah. Andy Ezrin, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful, Andy. That's a fantastic tune.
Thanks. That's a
Yeah.
tune called Closing Time, and it reminded me of the hat and the.
Whoop. Sorry, technical difficulty on my end. That was fun.
Love it. I love it. It's all
Woo!
live.
It's all
It's all
live.
live.
That's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's called Closing Time.
Yes.
What a great feel, man. And
Thanks.
and no
Thanks.
lyrics yet, huh?
The-
Giving me a
the-
lot of ideas.
yeah, come
Beautiful
on.
melody. It's a beautiful
Thank you.
melody. Piano sounds great. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Ezrin. The album, latest one, is called Dusk. Owen, please, if you wouldn't mind, toss that information up for folks at home again. Follow Andy on social media. Check out his website. Buy this album, and then just send him a little love. Say, hey, Andy, we appreciate your music and everything you're doing. Right on over through Venmo. And if you can't use Venmo, I'm sure if you send him an email through his website, he'll figure out another way for you to overpay him because that's, of course, what he's accustomed to. It's on all his contracts now. His compensation. Whatever it is, and then you must pay artists twice as much as what's written here. It's in the fine print. They sign it, and that's how you've been making a living, basically. And that's how you worked with
I,
you've extorted all these
right.
celebrities, which has been great. All right, Andy, we're gonna have some fun. You ready to have a little bit more fun? Okay.
If it's humanly possible, absolutely.
If it's humanly possible, I'm gonna present for you the Mondays with Marcus lightning round. Okay, now that we got that done, I hope everyone's okay. I should have put a warning on that, I guess. Like sometimes
I got hit.
yeah. All right. So here we are. We got a lightning round plan for you. I'm going to give you a rapid fire set of questions. You don't have to worry about right or wrong answers. Just go ahead. First thing that comes to the top of your mind. Okay, and you go right ahead. We have to do a little tester here just to make sure we have a baseline that we make sure you're being honest with us. So, is your name Andy?
It is.
Okay. Do you play the piano?
Yes, I do.
And are you from another planet?
I declined to answer that.
Well, at least
Possibly.
the first two answers check out fine on our meter. So folks at home, you can trust what he's about to say. Okay, are you ready, Andy? Here we go.
I'm ready.
What is your favorite midnight snack?
Oh.
Did I mention this is a lightning round?
Mango mochi ice cream.
Mango mochi ice cream. Love
Oh my
it.
God.
Okay, favorite 80s candy?
80s candy.
Yeah.
Would Skittles be that? Mm.
Yeah, why not? They were around in the
In the
80s.
80s? Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
stuff.
they didn't have as many colors, but they certainly were around.
I never knew what it was besides just blobs of sugar, but they were delicious.
That's all it needed to be, just different colors and different shapes of sugar. That's what we ate.
Bright
Okay.
color and sugar.
Would you rather fly or travel through time?
Oh, travel through time.
Hmm. If you could be a wild animal, what would it be?
Elephant.
Would you rather swim in a pool of jello or a pool of noodles?
I'm gonna go with noodles.
Nice. Very telling. Interesting. What is your favorite period in history?
I would say ancient Egypt.
Okay, if you could spend 5 years deep in outer space versus 5 years deep in the ocean, which would you choose?
Ocean, no doubt.
No doubt. And what is your favorite TV show theme song?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And you don't have to say Mondays with Marcus.
That's one of them.
Sure it is.
Um, I want to say, and I'm dating myself. It was a cop show in the '70s, Mannix. Do you remember that?
I did not watch Mannix, but I've seen. Go ahead, let's hear it. Yeah, what's the theme song?
It, it's in six.
Oh, this is sounding familiar.
So it was a really cool hip. It was almost like I want to say it
Okay.
was Lalo Schifrin who did.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mission. It was one of those because it was just that kind of super. And also one of the there were two, but one of the themes to Lost in Space.
Wow.
Yeah, do you remember Lost in Space? You're too young for that.
I never watched Lost in Space.
Yeah, I'm older than
But
you.
that's okay. That's okay.
It
You're
was in
allowed.
black and white too.
Wow. Well, now I'm gonna have to go check out Lost in Space and Mannix. I've got my Saturday night planned now. Thanks,
Yeah.
Andy. I didn't know what I was gonna do.
Now
Um,
you're set.
yeah, Andy, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for swinging
Absolutely. Thank
by.
you so much.
You're
Thanks
such
for
a
having me.
beautiful artist, and I
Thank
fully
you.
support, and I hope everyone else out there does also support your original music and in your process in promoting yourself and becoming the best, worst promoter you can possibly
Help
be.
me out there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely give you a hand.
absolutely.
Um, folks, you have all the information on how to get in touch with Andy. If you'd like to support this series, once again, you may do so by checking out our YouTube page and make sure to subscribe while you're there, as well as you can kind of send us a little bit of love over at PayPal or via PayPal or Venmo. Next week, my guest will be the incredible Andrea Wolpard. That's over Memorial Day weekend, and we get that nice long weekend. Remember when long weekends were a big deal? And they probably soon will be again. And if you haven't tuned in, you'll to Andy's music. You're in for a real treat, even if you stick on just his latest album. But really, I encourage you to go back and check out the rest of his catalog as well. Folks, at the top of the show, I mentioned I was introducing a segment to invite you all to share your gratitude, and if you have a moment you want to email it to me, you can always send me an email at I love Mondays with Marcus at gmail.com, and you can send me your moments of gratitude, that whatever is on your mind, if you don't feel like sharing them publicly. I'm at this moment very grateful for my grandfather. He is the reason that I really know any of this music and really got into probably the showbiz world, but rooted in the American song, because he used to play these songs for my mom on a 1928 Iverson Pond piano that she learned to play on, and then she raised me playing these songs in my house. So I'm very grateful for my grandfather, and my father as well, but he's for another episode. But my grandfather today. So my grandfather who's no longer with us. Thank you for everything that you've done. And that's going to do it for us today, folks, for Mondays with Marcus. I hope that whatever you are experiencing now in this period of transition, that you are compassionate and kind to yourself and to others. Find a moment to do something for someone else every day if you can. And until I see you again, please stay safe, stay compassionate, and stay engaged. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye bye.
Everybody loves a perfect theme song, a melody that stays inside your heart. You might have a nice show and others may think so, but if you want a great connection right from the start, then you gotta have a perfect theme song, so everyone can sing along from home. And while they are singing, the ratings you'll bring in, all because the melody is stuck in their head. You can make the bridge sound Jewish, that would be fine, long as it's familiar but newish. Everyone's falling in line, all because you got a perfect theme song, accompanying the audience for years. And when the show is over, it won't be the end, because the perfect theme song's a life-lasting friend. And speaking of friends, he's your host and MC, 'cause Mondays with Marcus is now a live stream. Whoa, whoa.